a lot of times at these things, there's one central location where you see everybody.
Right, but that goes on for a month. And like I was up there for a weekend. Who's making all the money up there? Not me.
Not me. It is not me.
I was looking at very full houses.
If you're seriously asking, I'm seriously answering. Not me.
Yes, and I'm not complaining. I guess.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where you start to realize, like, hey, Salt Lake City's doing a festival.
Right.
How much do I get paid? They'll fly you out.
Right.
Put you up.
Right.
It seems like it's a little exploitive.
Well, my feeling of it is that what I love about that festival in particular is that it's not an industry thing.
Right.
So you're really just going up there and having good shows.
Yeah, no, they were, and they were prompt. They showed up to pick me up. They were very nice. I happen to be a little crankier than I like to admit.
Right.
Because I don't feel like I'm that guy anymore. But up there, I was like getting off stage, going, "This place sucks." And and I was like, and there were people.
Well, you meaning wherever you happen to be, or San Francisco?
No. Well,
comedy.
That too. I lived there, and I've been going up there for years.
Yeah.
And I always thought, like, what a great place. And then finally realized, like, I used to say things like, I don't know what's going on here. I even lived there, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But there, and then I started to realize, like, I don't really fucking like this place. I mean, it's beautiful. There's good food and stuff, but people there are very caught up in themselves. It's weird.
They're very proud to be living in San Francisco, and they're proud of themselves, as opposed to being proud of the city. They're proud of themselves.
Well, they're their own little cities, just trucking down the street with their piercings, women with beards. I'm not judging, but you can do whatever you want there. That's fine. Yeah. But how about saying hi to the guy that maybe isn't weird in that way?
Well, what would be the point?
Exactly.
Why should somebody say hi to you?
That bothered me. Like, I always feel left out up there. But then I think what I realized finally is that, like, I'm not sure I want to be part of it.
Right. Exactly. You make your own little city.
That's right. Yeah. Right here. But the shower thing was just something like I was like hung up on. Like, I don't use a washcloth generally. You at home?
No, I don't. And I never thought about it until I saw an episode of the Chappelle Show. I actually saw the commentary of an episode of the Chappelle Show on DVD, where Neil Brennan was talking, because there was a joke in a sketch about a reality show spoof where it's like a wife swap kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so Dave's character has to go stay with a white family for a week, and he talks about how nobody there used washcloths.
Right.
And I did not realize that was a thing, that in the African American community, it's like everybody uses a washcloth. You put the soap on the cloth, so the soap is not being dirtied for other people.
I don't know if it's just African American. It seems like probably the proper use of a washcloth, and we all grew up with them, but I don't remember using them much.
I was just kind of given one, but I wasn't really told what to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point? Can't I just wash with soap?
Yeah.
But it actually exfoliates and stuff. Well, long story short, I used one today, and it was good. I use it because, like, I'm on these nicotine patches. I have one on each arm, and when you take them off, they leave a residue.
Are you supposed to be wearing two?
I don't know. It's just not enough with one.
It's best to just make your own rules with stuff like that. Any sort of drug that's going into your body.
I've always thought that.
Yeah.
The way I figure it, it's a controlled situation. I'm not going to be surprised. If I can handle this today,
True.
I'll probably be okay.
True.
Well, the thing was I had the 21 milligram ones, and then I ran out of them, and they were Walgreens brand, and I wasn't enjoying them much. And I'm not even smoking, but I smoked a cigar. It doesn't have to all be about me, Paul. Paul F. Tompkins is in my garage. We're having a nice time, and I'm going to let it happen right now.
I think that's a beautiful plan of action.
Because I was actually saw the Paul F. Tompkins I didn't like on television.
When?
From years ago. They're running Mr. Shows.
Oh, sure.
And I saw the coming attractions of one.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, that's the one that I didn't like.
That's when we met. That's right.
Yeah, that was the one, that guy.
That was like the second year of Mr. Show for me, I think.
You did the warm-up.
Yes. Yeah.
And you were also appearing in it.
Yes.
And did you write?
I wrote as well, yes.
So you were in it.
I was, yeah.
Yeah. And that was when I met you, and you were larger. You look much better now.
Thank you.
You looked younger, but you look better now.
Thank you.
You looked unhealthy and fat.
I was, both of those things.
Yeah. And that was the time where I didn't like you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really know, one of the things I had with you was that I'm sure you have people in your life, in our jobs, that this happens with, and I'm not trying to be mean, because I was probably one of those guys for you, where I'd watch you and I'd be like, I don't understand.
Right.
I don't
Right.
like he's animated. He's telling a story, but I don't know where to get in on this.
Right. Right.
And then like about 3 or 4 years ago, I was watching him like, oh, I get it. It's all together and it's funny.
Right.
Is that mean? Do you take that as mean?
No, I don't.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it absolutely
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
And now you're very funny.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, thank you.
yeah, and I think you were funny then. Don't judge me.
No. Listen, it took me coming out to LA was a big thing for me creatively. It changed everything because I've been doing stand up in Philadelphia for 8 years.
Philly,
Yeah,
we're just there.
yeah, at
Helium.
Helium, yes.
Enjoy the city. I like that city.
Yeah, it's a great town.
It's one of the only successful urban renewal projects I've ever seen.
Oh, is that so?
In a way, like it's clear that they took the downtown that was old and
Right.
pretty and said, well, let's make this vital again. And it actually feels like, is that true?
It's funny, because when I go back, I've been here since '94
Yeah.
in Los Angeles. So when I go back, I just see different. I see it in terms of the things that I used to know that aren't there anymore.
But it seems like
You know?
it seems like a real city. Like some
Yeah.
cities you go
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Atlanta and stuff,
Yeah.
they're still struggling
Yeah.
for an identity in some ways in terms of making it feel alive. But
Yeah.
Philly, you're like, hey, there's people out.
Yeah.
It's a functioning real
Yeah.
metropolis.
It's easy to get around, and it's one of those cities where you talk to strangers and it's okay. You know
they're
what I
great.
mean? Yeah.
It's that weird kind of like East Coast, Italian. So there's something about it's a lot like New York or even Boston. There's a regional pride.
Yeah.
Where people are like, that's Philly, you know, and you're like, yeah, it is. Let's have some meat.
Yeah.
A lot of meat pride there.
A lot of meat pride.
So how long were you doing comedy in Philly before you came here?
For 8 years.
Really?
I thought I was great.
You might have been pretty good.
I thought that I was doing something. I thought that I was my desire was ahead of my ability,
Which was
you know?
what?
Which was I wanted to be unique. There was a lot of Philly because it's it's a city, but it's basically there's no media there, so it's like the guys that I was watching that were successful were road comics. You know?
There's also a large black comic community there too, right?
Yes, although at the time that I started,
Yeah.
not really.
Oh, really?
You know, it
the
was-
only guy I know from Philly. I know a couple. I know Keith Robinson.
Yeah,
I don't. That might be it.
yeah.
Is that possible?
It might be. Yeah, it might be actually. I mean, a lot of the guys. Keith was around my time when I started.
Yeah.
He was a few years ahead
So
of
you
me.
started like me. Like how old are you?
I am 42. I started when I was 17.
Yeah, so you started around probably the same time I did because I'm 47. And I started when I was like 20.
Yeah.
20. Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah.
wow. So
86.
Even at it.
Yeah.
I think my first. That's about around the time. Yeah.
But I only got good in the last few years.
See, so I called it.
Yeah. No, you did absolutely. It's true though.
You're in agreement.
I was figuring it out at the time, like because the what I saw in LA was a thing that I was trying to get at, which was to be able to be conversational and as much myself as possible on stage.
Oh my God.
And I learned some. I went through some bad habits on my way to where I am now.
I just realized why we didn't get along.
because we were doing the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like for me, the journey in comedy was always to be myself.
Yeah.
That there was some, maybe I don't know if you can relate to this, but when I was a kid, I didn't fit in well.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a lot of great friends. I always felt like I was desperately trying to fit in.
Yeah.
Was that you?
Yeah. I mean, I had friends, but always it was like I took nothing for granted. It was
Right.
always like,
Right.
Please, you have to like me.
That me too.
Yeah.
And that was annoying. But you find later in life that your good friends knew that about you and you thought you were hiding it.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
when you say that one thing where you're like, oh, I fucked it up, they're like,
Yeah.
but dude, we know you.
I just spent most of my life has been spent being embarrassed.
Yeah,
Most of my
why?
life.
My mother used to embarrass me. What embarrassed you? Why?
Oh, it's just like
Was your family?
I think it was me. It was me. It was my own desperation, to be liked and to be accepted and into adulthood. And I would say up till I started going to therapy for the first time was when I started to gradually kind of relax. And it's not like I'm not very zen right now. I still have a ways to go, but I've gotten so much better at just at just being able to live life.
Are you a panicky guy?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's what
not like panic attack, but I was always like, anxious,
dread,
anxious, amped
yeah.
up. Yeah, like
Dread?
oh my god,
Yeah, dread.
a lot of dread.
Like, oh, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
That,
Still, where I have to talk myself down.
Right, where you realize, like, hey, my head's making that up.
Yeah, it's going to be fine.
Yeah,
it's going to be fine. The worst case scenario is hardly the worst case scenario for most people.
We should get T-shirts made that just say, "Oh, this is going to be bad. This can't go well." But that's fucking interesting to me. So you come out here, so 8 years, but isn't it a gift though? Because if you're in the same boat I am, I mean, to actually all of a sudden feel truly fearless on stage, to feel like you're accepted for who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't happen I mean, we were 20 years in, dude.
Yeah.
That's,
yeah.
I mean, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know if it was ever going to happen because, and I think then maybe you were the same as me in that, because we are sort of similar trajectories in that we're building our own worlds and we seem to find people. You had more opportunity than me early on, but even when I had those opportunities and looking back at them, I say.
No, I'm sorry. When you say that, you mean the scene in L.A. when I
well,
got
you know,
here,
you were integrated into the crew. I mean, you did Mr. Show, and then you went on to do that the David Allen Greer show, Dag. And it was that point where I'm like, oh, I get what he is. Paul's one of those character actors. He's you know, you're going to be the guy that's like, oh no, you know, on the TV show,
the jerk at the office,
right? The jerk at the office. Yeah. I just thought you were a jerk in real life, But like I understood something, but you had some TV success, and at that time I thought you were on your way. But
so did I.
But like when I look back at those breaks, I guess my question is this: is that, you know, when I really look back at all the opportunities I've had that didn't really follow through, I realize now that I got those opportunities out of some sort of weird charismatic insistence that, you know, I wanted to be part of it. You know, let's get this. I'm going to sell a show. I'm going to do this. But in retrospect, I don't think I was ready for any of them.
I feel when I look back, and I'm kind of, I can't think about it too much because it'll make me crazy, is how much of those opportunities did I squander, and how much did my fear hold me back from proceeding and perhaps being more successful today than I am.
But what are you going to do about that? There's nothing to get obsessed about.
Exactly.
I mean, you're younger, you're this or that.
Yeah. But it's like, it's when you have the revelation. For me, it was having the revelation of like, oh wow, I turned down this, that, whatever. I justified it to myself that I had a good reason for not doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But it was because I was afraid.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I was afraid.
Right.
And
like, what are those things?
Yeah.
Like, what'd you turn down? For example, and why?
I can't think of this. I think it was there were movies or TV shows that I didn't audition for that I told myself was because I had a greater artistic integrity,
or you weren't right for it, right?
Yeah.
There's that one where you're at home and the agent calls like, nah. I mean,
it's better for somebody else who really fits. Like, I don't want to take a job away from somebody. But it was the anxiety, and I got so good at masking that to myself that I was able to I was able to invent. I got so fast at it where I could invent a reason why, like an ironclad reason, like, oh, that is why I should not go in on that.
And when you went in, did you see other guys who were like, oh, he's going to get it? Why am I even
instantly,
here?
Yeah. Oh, always.
Oh, you're so insecure. I like you all the more better. Because like I found that out about myself too. Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about that other than try to get help, or who knows,
you just gotta move forward.
Who knows what we did?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, our talent obviously carried us. There was I never had a plan B in place. Did you?
No, never. And that's the thing that haunts me sometimes, and I have to. Another thing that I gotta stop, that I can't think about, is like I got by on I feel like the merest sliver of my ability. And if I had really dedicated myself as much as I'm dedicating myself now, where would I be? But you get there when you get there, and like I did not have at the time. I didn't have the tools at the time.
Yeah,
to be a better performer, to be a better writer, to be a better person. You know,
and you were a drinker too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you just toned that down.
Yeah, now I drink like a human being.
Yeah, well, that's good for you.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, you know, I don't drink at all, but I mean, if you're able to manage that, I mean,
it's still difficult sometimes.
Well, didn't you do a show based on your alcoholism, basically?
Yeah.
What was that called?
It was called Driven to Drink.
That
was 1998. I did that. And it was all this thing. It's like one of those things where I'm half embarrassed by that and half proud of it to this day.
In what way are you embarrassed?
I had this whole adorable little philosophy about drinking, and it was just like, it's just, I think about it now, and it's kind of dumb,
I'm
like
sure.
That's how I feel about it.
What was it?
Like
What was it?
Oh well, what was it? It was like
you were proud of being that guy?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was very much a part of my personality.
Right.
As much as smoking was.
Right.
Oh
yeah.
All of that stuff that I thought that more self-consciousness, where I thought, no, this is part of my identity.
But also defines you.
Yeah.
I mean, a cigarette is like, he's a smoker, he's a this, he's like, we're living hard.
Yeah.
You're drinking, you're that guy.
Yeah. If I don't go out tonight and drink in front of everybody,
I
then
disappear.
who am I?
Yeah. No one knows I exist.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm a ghost.
Exactly.
I'm a ghost.
Yeah.
People look right through me.
I might as well be dead.
Yeah. People just saw you as a beer and a cigarette moving through the.
Yeah.
That's Paul.
Yeah. Exactly.
The invisible man.
Exactly.
So, but how long did it take you to realize that wasn't the fucking ticket? I mean, like, did you hit a wall?
No, it really was. I got to a point. I had
a gal. It was a gal.
Yeah, of course it was. Yeah.
Good for you.
Because
I just use them like I use liquor and booze. Liquor and cigarettes. Like, another thing I can use to.
Hey, why not get other people involved in this?
Yeah, come on, bring them all down.
Oh, the stories you're giving people. I was hung up on this girl who was a friend of mine, and it was really bad news. We were close friends, and then I expressed affection for her, and then it all went south.
And then you ruined her life.
Oh well, no, I did not ruin her life. She did just fine.
Okay.
Our friendship kind of limped along in a weird way for another year, I would say.
Yeah.
And then, as happened to many people after 9/11, I think some reassessing of what is acceptable happened.
Yeah.
And then that
flying
was
in airplanes in the buildings. No, bad.
Yeah, that's number one.
Unacceptable.
I think we all agreed that was number one. And so it's
and then
it got local.
Yeah. What was number two? Maybe this isn't working out.
Yeah, number two was like, I don't think I need this guy being this way to me, treating me like I'm doing something wrong.
She did that.
by not loving me. Yeah.
He's an emotional terrorist. He's flying his childhood into my building.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so that was devastating. That was devastating.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I clearly. Yeah. I'm not. I was always one of those guys who's like, I don't need therapy because I got a pretty good sense of myself.
Yeah.
And
except for the blind side that everyone else sees,
which is
most of it,
which is 99% of who I am. Yeah. So I went to therapy for the first time, and I was really, really.
What year
scared.
is this? Oh, so 2001.
I started going in 2002. Yeah, early 2000.
Oh, wow.
Mid 2002.
Yeah.
And I was just terrified. I did not know what was going to happen.
What was that first session like? That's always to tell. Like there's
such a blur. But I remember the first session was such a relief.
Yeah.
It was such a relief because she was so nice
yeah.
and she was so. It was like everything that I went in there thinking, well, I'll try this person out. And knowing that, okay, maybe this won't be the one, and but I'll do this right. You know, I'm going to do this right. And she was terrific, and she
auditioning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure.
But she got the part right out of the gate.
Oh, good.
She was very just matter of fact about everything, but also like she was very caring, and it was just like this works. You know, I'll stick with this, and I've been going ever since, and it's been the biggest. It has doing that has been the best decision that I've ever made, because it made me, once I saw the value of, the more I let this stuff out, and the more I say the things that I'm afraid to say, and the more I look at the things that I'm afraid to look at, the better it gets, and the better my life gets.
Yeah, well, that's a good therapist, and you have a good relationship, and you're still with her after 8 years later, 9 years later. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What were the main things? What was the thing stuck in the craw of your soul?
Yeah, it was. It's the same as a lot of us in this business. It was family issues, and it was I grew up in a big family, and
how many?
6 kids.
Holy shit!
And
do you know all of them?
I recognize a lot of them on sight, I think.
Have they friended you on Facebook?
A couple have. Not all. Just a couple.
Is that true? Not all?
I think all that are on Facebook have friended me on Facebook.
Well, how many? So how many boys, how many girls?
3 boys, 3 girls.
And you were the middle?
I was 5 out of 6. Middle boy.
Wow.
Yeah. So by the time I came along, my mom was burnout. You
Yeah.
know, my dad worked all day and came home and went off into his world. You know,
Interesting. Like he had a world.
yeah. He was.
I talked
He's
to some other
very.
guys like that.
Yeah, he's like one of these. He's of Irish descent, and he's one of the remote Irish types,
Yeah.
not the gregarious Irish.
Are
type.
you all Irish?
No, Irish and Italian. My mother's
okay.
Italian.
That's
yeah.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. All Catholic.
Yeah.
Irish and Italian, all Catholic.
Did you go to Catholic school?
Oh yeah, for 12 years.
Oh,
yeah.
So you're fucked up in a very non-Jewish way.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Very specific.
Yeah.
And so you were the fifth one, so there's plenty of old clothes around. Yeah, and-
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
The detached dad, I find a common thread among us.
Absolutely.
It's weird.
Yeah.
So we just wander through the world looking for parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like,
And then you
this
have
room
to-
full of strangers will work.
Yeah.
Hey, like me.
And then that thing where you realize you have to become your own parent, like things things that I
see,
didn't learn about,
yeah.
like money and like
Nothing.
stuff like that.
Nothing. That's why we're comics.
Yeah.
We live out of boxes.
Exactly.
We're we don't have a
Yeah.
job in place. There's no sense of like
mortifying.
What about that thing? It's like, well, what about finding job security? I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
That's for babies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I will be delivered.
Yeah, that's a full calendar is job security.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
for a month or two. But
Exactly.
but it's interesting to me that there's so many of us that do that. I mean, I didn't learn about the self-parenting trick till fucking recently. And,
me too.
And
Yeah.
to actually do it.
Yeah.
To actually say no, Mark.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And then to have Mark go, fuck you.
Yeah.
And then, no.
Exactly.
No, fuck you. I can do whatever I want.
Exactly.
And then he'd go into everything with that struggle. What's
Yeah.
the matter with that guy?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can't decide what he wants.
That first time of not buying a thing, like saying I'm going to buy this jacket because it'll make me feel good.
Yeah.
And they're like, it really won't.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
for very long.
Well, what I do in that situation, and I think maybe it would help you. Maybe you already do it. Is just wear it around the store for a bit.
That never occurred to me.
Oh no, it's great.
That never
Like
occurred
I
to
do
me.
that at big stores all the time. I'll take some shoes. I'll try them on. I'm like, these are great, and then I'll walk around the store for like another 15 minutes, and I'll just like eventually put them back.
Maybe I'll take photos too.
Sure. This is the
I'll
jacket
hand
I
my
must
phone.
buy.
I'll hand my phone to someone. Could you just take a quick picture of me?
But you are a clothes horse. I mean, there's.
I am. Yeah.
What is
Yeah,
it
yeah.
now? What is that? What is the image we're doing here?
I think it's the. First of all, I can't wait to answer this question. The way it was asked. I'm sorry, I'm letting you down. That is almost identical to the inflection. My mother, as she was dying,
Yeah.
I'm riding with her in the ambulance to the hospice, and she said to me, "So what's the ultimate plan here with the career?" It's like, wow, you're taking care of business on the way out.
You were there for when she died.
Yeah.
Are both your parents dead?
No, my father's still alive.
Huh.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that. It's not something I've had to live through. Were you the only one there, or
No, well, I was.
were all six of
she
you
was
in the ambulance?
She was alone.
Come on, you guys!
I don't know.
Leave
how
your
that-
jacket.
I don't know how that ended up being me, but that was me, and I'm very grateful to have had that experience. It was it's one of those things that's kind of I could describe it to you, but it's not. There's no way you can understand what it's like until you experience it.
Was it a process? I mean, did you?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Was she had cancer?
She had a million different things wrong with her, and she was on dialysis, and she also had this I don't know what the condition is called, but she had this condition where she kept getting this buildup of fluid in her abdomen that had to be drained every month, and it was happening with more and more frequency, and the doctor finally told her, look, this is the quality of your life from now until the end. So
Right.
you could either keep doing this, or you could just kind of let nature take its course. And so she decided she was going to go off dialysis, and she was just going to go. She realized she would rather do that than.
Did she discuss it with the family, or
No, at that point, it's like she was in her late 70s, so
Oh.
it's like this was her decision all
Right,
the way.
right.
And I cannot. That's the thing that flabbergasts me to this day is I can't imagine the idea of being at a point in your life where you say, yeah, that's enough. I'm ready to let go.
You've never been there?
No, I
mean,
never have.
Not even just to make yourself feel better.
No. I honest to God, I don't think I've ever been. I've had like maybe one suicidal thought that was really that close to where I was like, I could see how great it would be to just
not be
anymore.
Yeah.
But and that scared me, and that shook me out of it.
But isn't that interesting? I mean, was she a believing Catholic till the end?
No, she was not.
Huh.
She was a Catholic all of her life until 76, and then she was an atheist. She woke up one day and it just didn't make sense to her anymore.
Were pictures taken down and things thrown away? Any Jesus?
Oh yeah. Because there had been little statues and things around the house, and she was never like evangelical about it. You know what I mean?
Catholics
But
are
she
just
was
it's deeper than that. They don't, They don't need to promote.
Exactly.
They have a look.
Exactly. Well, they're great. It's all taken care of. Yeah. There's an organization in place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that. And then that stuff was all
and
gone.
You don't know what happened? She just woke up and
she said she had started thinking about the Iraq War. And she was trying to think of what reason that God could have for this war, because she was raised to believe that God had a reason for everything. And then she started thinking she couldn't think of a reason God would have for this war. It didn't make any sense to her. It was stupid. It was clearly under false pretenses, you know. And then she started thinking, well, maybe that's not how God works. And then she started thinking, well, hold on a second. What if there's no reason for any of this? Then what's the point to all of it? And maybe there's not somebody that's in charge of all this stuff.
She lost her faith.
Yeah, she lost her faith. And she was totally fine with it, too. It was not at all like, it didn't seem to depress her. What was amazing to me and what kind of made me feel good as opposed to bad about it, as she neared the end of her life. Because, as your parents get older, it's nice to think that they have a thing that comforts them.
Yeah.
She seemed to take comfort in the fact that in the fatalism of it all, I guess, like the idea that no, you live a time on Earth and then that's it, Like she seemed like a great weight was lifted off her shoulders, that she didn't have to believe in this thing anymore.
Yeah, and who knows what was going on in her heart around the idea of letting go of hell.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Because if you're a Catholic and your faith is really shaken to the point where you lose it, that's got to be a relief. It's like, well, I'm definitely not going to that place that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That was a bad idea all around.
Exactly. So now, I guess I'll find out. I guess I'll find out.
But that's interesting. So it was like she was unburdened, and she was able just to deal with the existential reality of life.
Yeah.
And then make a decision to choose to go out without like a lot of people are like that, because that's a living will thing. Like if I ever get to this point, But she was able to make that choice.
Yeah, she was hilarious about it too. Like she had no problem talking about it to whoever when she was in hospice and. It's the last days of her life, and somebody said there's a priest outside. This is a guy that she knew. Had been over to our house for dinner countless times. Like, he wants to know.
He was going in for last call.
Yeah, he wants to know if you want last rites, and she went, no.
Really?
Like that? Yeah.
But did she let the guy in to just chat with him or anything?
No.
Oh, really?
No.
Don't even let the guy in the costume.
Oh, you know what? It wasn't that he was outside. It was that a friend of hers, her best friend, was going to send for him.
Oh, okay.
And she just dismissed it.
Oh, so she meant
ridiculous.
Business.
Oh, yeah. She did not have a deathbed reconversion.
And what about your old man? How did he react to all this?
That's a good question. He was
Let's
there.
Call him.
He was there. he was there for everything and sat with her and all that. It's not like he was there at the very end and they held hands and stuff like that. But he people would ask me, how's your dad doing with your mom passing? And I was like, I don't think I'm the guy to ask.
No one knows what's in there.
No one knows. No one ever will.
That's the situation. But do you have some peace around your relationship with him in that way?
Not as much as I would like, and it's one of those things where I think I know it has to come from me, and I have to initiate that kind. And it's not like we're estranged or anything. It's just like if the phone call is going to be made, it's got to come from me. He's not going to pick up the phone.
Yeah, with any of the siblings or just you?
Oh, just me. He lives with my sister now.
Oh, okay.
And but I well, as far as I know, it's just me.
Yeah,
it's not just me.
Is it?
I would be upset to find out that he's talking to everybody else. A blue streak.
I thought it was special.
Exactly.
But is it something to do with your career choice? Or
no,
just the fact that he never got you?
It is just who he is.
Uh-huh.
It's just who he is. He's not a very demonstrative person. He never has been. And he is like a guy who likes to who prefers to be in the background, you know.
Well, that's interesting because you're a very demonstrative person.
Oh yeah. My mother was much more
Right.
outgoing and she was much more Italian, you know. So it was very she was happy to tell you what was on her mind at all times.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And she was given to making pronouncements about everything. Everything was a pronouncement, you know. And I have decided, and you know, things like that. So that's I definitely
to a shocked family.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Mom's decided.
Exactly.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So so do you ever think that's part of your disposition is a reaction to your father?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. You know, I was trying to get noticed by both of them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it was easier to get noticed by my mother. And now it's like, I definitely want to have. You know, my dad's in his 80s, and you know, it's kind of beat the clock at this point where I really want to establish some kind of relationship with him and get to know him. After all this time.
Have you talked about that with your therapist? Is there a plan in place?
Oh, many times.
What's the plan?
The plan is I have to do it. You know what I mean? That's the
yeah.
plan, and it's the awkwardness and I'm sure the kind of pain that's involved, because it's not easy. He's a very reserved guy, and so talking to him is like he will speak when spoken to, but he's not gonna. It's not like. If you ask the perfect question, he will just start talking, and there's no stopping him. You know, it's like it really is like I've often equated it to being with a friend of a friend that you don't know that well.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh,
Could
what
you
do we
just
have in common?
Could you just hang out with him for a few minutes? I got to run into the store.
Exactly.
Hey.
Exactly. So you like movies, right?
Yeah. That's probably a good way to start.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like with my dad, I just
you guys have you talk to him.
No, I do, but
fairly often.
like I can't. Like I don't like when I'm around him. Like I went and saw him. I'm only good for about 2 days before I'm literally drained. And Mike, he's done it again. I no longer know who I am.
He's done it again.
And now I have to go get new headshots. Just so I could make sure I still exist. He's just so fucking needy. I mean, in a way, you got off easy on that way. But it'd be interesting to see because I have found that a lot of times as they get older. They do need a little push, but they're willing to spill some shit.
Yeah.
Because they see it coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, he's lived the life that he's lived is pretty amazing. He was, you know, born in the he was a Depression baby and you know, fought in World War II in the Pacific.
Really?
And
He didn't tell you any stories?
No. Well, that generation is not. You know, is not given to that.
Yeah,
you know? I think they'll tell you if you ask them, but they're not exactly.
They've kind of compartmentalized it.
Yeah,
because there was no celebration of
what's to talk
post-traumatic.
about? It's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, we did what we had to do. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys I killed, but it was my job.
What, you talk about eating breakfast every day? Yeah, you have to eat breakfast, so you do it.
That's it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man,
but that's the stuff. Like I definitely. I always think that that's the way in. Is I want to. It's almost the interview style. Is I want to talk to him about his experiences and see what was this like.
Yeah.
You know, and the things. When I think about people from my parents' generation and the things that they have seen in their lifetime,
sure,
it's unfathomable, and that they could roll with it. You know,
right.
Like. You know, by the end of my mother's life, she was on email. You know, she was surfing the web, and it's like that's unbelievable to me.
It's amazing how we adapt, but it's also amazing that they lived in a period in history where there was history.
Mm-hmm.
Here, everything there's no history.
Yeah,
it's just a series of pictures.
More of the same.
Yeah. It's more the same, but it's all right here on our laptops.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
There's no sense of life lived.
Yeah.
It's all personal narrative. There's no broader cultural narrative. Yeah. Like I mean, just the idea of World War II. Where everybody was like, do your part.
Yeah.
Here a war happens now, and people are like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were a few of them during World War II, but I mean, it was just a national duty, and everybody. I always think that when it was more intimate and there was less media,
mm-hmm.
that maybe there was less information. But I'm not sure that was a bad thing because what it did for the human fabric
mm-hmm.
is that more people were on the same page and there was some sense of cultural identity.
Yeah,
that everyone shared.
Now you have access to all this information, but the thing is like now history can be muddied as it happens.
Oh yeah.
You know? So if you're looking for information on something, you're going to find 50 different versions of it.
Right.
And you're not going to be any better off.
Yeah. There's no way to know unless you were there. Oh, fuck. I guess I'll just have to take whatever spin seems attractive.
Yeah, the one I like the most.
Yeah. This fits my ideology. Yeah, I mean, I think about those themes all the time. All right, so now full circle back around to this dandyish persona that you seem to have appropriated from God knows who. Who did it come from?
I think it came from that's what showbiz looked like when I was a kid, and that's who seem to be the coolest people because the age I am, and I know you can understand this. You know, I would see the Tonight Show, I would see the Merv Griffin show.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
It was like, and everybody wore a suit and tie to be on television.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
And so that was absolutely what I wanted to be. You know, and the comedian was the best one because he was all by himself and everybody paid attention to him and everybody liked him. You know, and it seemed effortless. You know, and he'd go sit on the couch and joke around. Like, that's the dude that I want to be.
And now we learn it takes a little more effort than we thought.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
That was all a big lie.
Yeah, it's effortful.
Full of effort.
Yeah.
So the spectacle of Paul F. Tompkins now, because you don't just wear a suit. I mean, you wear a fucking suit.
Oh yeah, it definitely has gotten more flamboyant the older I've gotten, and it's like I feel like I am preparing for my old age. Yeah, because the to me, like seeing Peter O'Toole on Letterman, you know, like dressed to the nines, this like elegant older guy. It was like, abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to prep now.
Yeah.
I'm going to prep now.
But there is sort of also a cult history in show business of this, of I don't know what a dandy really is.
It's a fop, except you don't have a handkerchief tucked in your sleeve.
And a fop is...
I think a fop is like... To me, I think of the fop as like the painted-on beauty mark, you know,
okay.
a powdered wig.
So just shy of burlesque
sort of
in a way. Male burlesque. The guy who hosts a burlesque. I'm thinking... You know, Joel Grey in Cabaret, you know, white face.
More of a fop than a dandy. Yeah.
I would hope so. Yeah. And I don't see you as that. Though
From your lips to God's ears.
Yeah. But I have seen you, I think, wearing white makeup. Have I not?
I don't think so.
Maybe that was a dream I had.
That might have been.
I saw, you know what I think I'm associating with the...
Kabuki?
No, with the, or the cover of V for Vendetta or something. Is that possible?
Maybe so. It's possible.
But there is but what I'm saying is that there have been people like what's his name, Tom Wolfe, the writer. There have been people that are fairly aware of being recognized, and maintain that consistency. I think that when you were younger, you still had the suit thing going, as I recall.
Yeah.
But you were more of a Jackie Gleason.
Well, unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, but
that was not how I thought of myself, of course.
But did you like Jackie Gleason? Or was that even on your radar?
I mean, I knew who he was, and I had seen The Honeymooners and everything, but it was not. He didn't do it for me.
But you're always sort of a raconteur, you know, kind of a take over the room, and and you just.
But I also was not always a heavy guy. That was like a thing that happened
with beer.
With moving to L.A. and I remember it was after my first year working on Mr. Show, I think, and it was the constant anxiety of having this dream job. But feeling like I'm going to get fired at any moment.
Right.
And being in an office environment where there's like food all over the place. So it's like eating all day long and then drinking at night. And it was just this terrible combination of things that I was handling as best I could at the time.
Yeah.
But I gained, like, I'd never been heavy before like that.
But food makes you feel better. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah. And the worse the food is, the more it makes you feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like immediately as I'm eating it, I'm like this. Like last night, I did this Oinkster thing. You ever been to Oinkster?
No.
On Colorado?
Oh no, I just saw it for the first time. What is that place?
I thought it was a shitty place, but then Jesse Thorne says we got to try it, and they make their own pastrami there. So I mean, it's like, and they have like this nice red cabbage slaw, chili fries, but their own pastrami. And I'm in this thing now because I've gotten out of the loop on the exercise, and I'm letting myself drift with cigars and shit. But once it starts to go, I mean, it starts to go. I sat there last night. I shoveled a pastrami sandwich in my mouth, chili fries, and then a chocolate shake, and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep because of it.
Yeah.
But while I'm doing it, I'm like, I feel good. This is good. Look at me eating.
Yeah.
And then within an hour, I'm like, I want to die. What have I done to my heart?
Yeah, I'm a monster.
Yeah,
I'm a monster. I'm a monster who doesn't deserve love, clearly, because I ate that sandwich.
And I enter the world like that. But you did seem to solidify yourself in the world of. I mean, now I think that your signature is revolving around your sort of rebirth as a solo performer.
Yeah.
And that it seems that from fairly early on, from Mr. Show forward, you've worked in television.
Yeah.
I mean, you were integrated in. You did episodic work a lot. You show up in movies, and then you show up in really good movies. for moments.
Yes, for moments, for brief moments.
I've had this experience a few times in movie theaters. That was Paul. It was him, right?
That's right.
Yeah. But what's your relationship with Paul Thomas Anderson?
I haven't seen Paul in a while.
The director of There Will Be Blood.
That's right. I have not seen him since then.
Did you do another movie? You've sort of shown up in most of
Magnolia.
his movies.
Magnolia.
Oh, okay, Magnolia.
I did what ended up being just a voice in Magnolia. And that was it. But he's a guy that I have known off and on through Largo.
Yeah, that was
the old nightclub.
Right,
Largo.
the Crux.
Yeah, and he started coming to Largo around the time that comedy started happening at Largo. It had been open for about a year and was just a music club. And then they started doing comedy on Monday nights. And then all the comics and the musicians started to get to know each other and appear on each other's shows.
Yeah, and does Josh DiDonato get any credit for this?
No, I will always give Josh credit. He was the guy that brought comedy to Largo.
He was.
And that would not have happened had it not been for him.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, and then, I see him around occasionally. He's still kicking.
I haven't seen him in a while.
He's different. He cut his hair and he wears a hat.
That's right.
He's actually trying to be you. Maybe you ought to call him. But in terms of the sort of clique that came out of Largo, I haven't really talked about that specifically on the show. Mm-hmm. That because I wasn't living here and I would come and do it, but there was definitely something that happened. It was sort of a hub for what you said, that there was musicians, there were filmmakers, there was sort of a young group of creative types that were sort of surfacing in Hollywood at that time, and that was really the place where, Galifianakis came out of there. Yep. Dana sort of cut his teeth in there, though he was already working a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an established guy, but I think a lot of things, Bob and Dave, White Trash Lotto came out of there too.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
It's an amazing. Who else was around? But Amy Mann and
Greg Barrett.
Yeah, Barrett.
I remember Fitzsimmons went up there a lot.
Yeah, it was just like this weird hub of what was really alternative comedy here.
Yeah.
But oddly, and I find this a lot, that a lot of what people frame as the beginning of alternative comedy were mainstream comics who just didn't fit into the mainstream. And wanted an outlet.
Yeah. It was, for me, it was like that's what I was looking for when I started in Philadelphia was, where are the places that I can go and I can do the stuff that I find the funniest, that I don't have to worry if people are gonna get it. I don't have to worry about holding people's attention
or disappointing a club owner.
Oh yeah. Because it's like, well,
who doesn't get it?
Yeah.
Right.
It's that feeling of, like, the first 8 years that I did stand up, that feeling of being on stage was very desperate, and it was very like, Jesus Christ, this has to go well.
Yeah.
These people, I could lose these people at any second. And then that was the biggest change for me coming out to LA. It was like,
I've maintained that excitement throughout my career,
and it is exciting, isn't it?
But coming out here,
but seeing that people they trust you.
Yeah.
Like they're saying we came to this place because we're assuming we're going to see something that's novel and that's interesting. It's not.
And the food was good, which I think made a difference. That people could sit
the Largo food.
Yeah.
Did you like that food?
I don't know if I liked it.
People were very divided on that food.
I don't know if I liked it.
A lot of people complained.
But they were eating dinner.
They were eating dinner.
And it seemed like a respectable dinner.
Yes.
It wasn't like, some sort of bar food.
Yes, absolutely. It was not chicken wings.
Yeah.
There were no nachos.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pasta.
Yeah, it was grown-up food. Yeah, absolutely.
Grown-up food. That's fucking. Yeah. So you felt that you were with like-minded people, and the audience was like-minded, but it definitely was where the juice was for.
Yeah.
Like, it took me a long time to realize, probably till recently, that this whole idea that a whole generation of talent managers, talent agents, filmmakers, they all sort of come up at the same time.
Yeah.
And the people that are in their periphery, given their world as talent or as an agent or whatever, they align themselves with each other.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how this, and then they push aside, the people that are pitching the Michael Winslow movie or what have you.
Yeah.
And I had no sense of that. I mean, did you have a sense of that early on? I mean,
no, I didn't have a sense of it at the time, but also it was a very heady time, and it was very intense. Like I remember that as being, for me anyway, but I would wager that a lot of people felt the same way. That it was there was always stuff going on. You had people that were doing some amazing work, and you had some people that were figuring it out. People like me, I think, that were figuring it out that didn't realize they were figuring it out. Like I kind of thought. Like I remember being on stage at one point, and I was doing this. I was talking about some episode of a TV show that I saw. I'm getting all worked up about it, and I'm like really like ranting about this, and the audience is going crazy. And I had a feeling like this isn't right. Like this is like I'm talking about this dumb thing, and I'm like selling it with performance, but this doesn't feel earned, and it doesn't feel. That was like the first inkling of
so
this
you
is
finally,
not really what I want to do.
Finally found a place where you could fit in, and you wanted to fuck it up.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, well, this is not.
These people, I can't trust them.
It wasn't satisfying. It wasn't satisfying.
But there is that issue too, and I don't know how you feel now because I mean you're doing something. You're managing career a little differently than me in terms of who you perform for, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But
sure.
I still like I like when there's strangers in the room. Mm-hmm. And I've been fighting all this time to get my people out, but I had this interesting moment come up in Philly. Mm-hmm. Like a guy tweeted online that there's a lot of douchebags in line, at the Marc Maron show. And then then I walk around the room sometimes before the show, and he comes up to me, he's like, dude, I just tweeted that, we're seated with some of them. And I'm like, would you relax? They're just people, and
right.
I'm going to do a show, and they might have heard me on radio. I mean, I can handle this. Yeah. I'm on it. I appreciate you watching my back. And then the guy comes up to me afterwards. He's like, "You're right. They were laughing the whole time." I'm like, "Well, look who's a weirdo now."
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? What are you judging on? A haircut? And we all do that.
Absolutely.
But I like, and I think what you were speaking to, and I don't know if you were, but I like it when it's not everybody. You're not preaching to the choir of one kind or another. That there is a challenge to the fact, we're not sure who this guy is. We watched this clip on YouTube, but I don't know if he's funny. And then you get the audience that doesn't. There's still the idea. For me, of the comedy club, that you're dealing with strangers, and part of your job is to entertain strangers that may not know you. I don't know how you feel about that.
The way I feel is I want to be doing something that's substantial. Mm-hmm. That it only and it's like it has to be substantial for me. It has to feel like that was worth saying on stage. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's my criteria. But I have to feel okay about it. To do it on stage, and that was the very, very beginnings of starting to get better at stand up, and kind of realizing maybe I'm not as good as I think I am,
right.
Maybe I don't have it all figured out,
right.
just because I'm getting laughs. Just anybody can get laughs,
right.
And there's how many people do you see that it's like, well, this is button pushing kind of bullshit this guy's doing, he's hitting it's making the sounds of comedy,
right.
but it's not really comedy.
It's just a rhythm.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was that, but it kind of ties into my approach now to performing in front of audiences is like the comedy club thing for me. The challenge of doing that, I got to a point where I just didn't hold an allure for me anymore, because I felt like as my stuff got quieter and more internal, and less explosive, and more implosive, if you will, I felt
less
like
a caricature.
Yeah.
More
It was
personal.
more honest. It was like I didn't want to do what I felt was like babysitting people, because when I would go to the comedy clubs,
I call it that too. It's interesting. Where you look around the room and you're like, am I going to have to babysit you?
Yeah.
Am I going to have to deal with no?
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just people fucking talking.
Yeah. It's like you're an audience.
Yeah.
Behave yourselves. I'm doing my part. Right.
Yeah. When I felt like there's certain people that have an idea of what comedy is, and I don't meet that idea, and so they check out. And I felt like the kind of stuff that I'm doing, I'm not performing it to the best of my ability if I'm worried about this guy over here who the glow of his phone in his face because he's totally checked out.
But is there a sense, because I deal with the same issue, and I deal with something I perceive in myself as fear and arrogance.
Yeah.
Now, because if I watch, I recently watched Bill Cosby himself, all the way through.
Yeah. How about it?
Yeah.
God, I had that thing memorized when I was a kid.
Well, I sort of come to it with new eyes, and he was never really one of my guys. Mm-hmm. I like some of the old stuff, but I was never. He never Pryor always spoke to me, but
right.
But just on a stylistic level, Bill Cosby is speaking to everyone. Mm-hmm. Like if someone goes, fuck Bill Cosby, you go, what's the matter with you?
Right.
Right. And anybody could, I have that problem with people saying fuck anybody who's established a unique place in the world for themselves, because I'm like, there's no conversation, just fuck Bill.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So So like I'm watching this thing and I realize, and it was a profound realization at this point in my career, because this is within the last year that, he is deciding the pace and he is deciding, what they will laugh at. Yeah. He's making that decision for a fairly broad audience.
Yeah.
And then I started to realize, because I think what you're speaking about is something I did too, is that there's a panic and there's sort of like, how do I manage this guy? How am I going to keep him interested? And I also talked to Stuart Lee about it, that, which also changed my mind about things at this stage in my career, where he said, I've begun to look at the people that don't get me with sympathy. Like, in the sense that, like, I'm sorry that I'm not your idea of what you expected.
Absolutely.
And that your night is fucked up because you can't get me. There's nothing I can do. To bridge this gap. So that's more in defense of finding your own audience.
Yeah.
But to me, lately, there's also, in terms of my fearlessness that I think is real now and earned, as opposed to just pretend fearlessness,
yes.
And I've said that before, like, 95% of comedy, and certainly the most of your career is pretending like you're not afraid.
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like that first time that you go on stage.
Like, God, horrendous.
All
you're thinking is like, I'll be off soon.
Yeah. In my mind, that is such a blur, like anything that happened on stage, but I must have thought it went pretty well, or I never would have done it again.
Well, you got the response.
Yeah, I got some response.
Right.
It's like Scott, I was so happy that you had Scott Carter on. Recently, because I love listening to him, and his whole thing about all he had to do was his deal with himself was to get one laugh.
Yeah.
And so once he got 2 laughs, it was like, well, I'm way ahead of the game here. This is beyond my wildest expectations. But yeah, it's like when I've had that same thing that Stuart Lee's talking about when I became more charitable about it.
Yeah.
Like, first it was, you go through the thing where
Fuck
anybody's
you.
not liking, they're your enemy.
Yeah.
They're your enemy for not liking what you're doing. And then I realized, oh, this is such a drag. That guy's not having fun. He's like gonna sit here, and the expression on his face.
And you just
is
hope he doesn't
terrible.
ruin it for everybody.
Yes, exactly. Like, that's the best case scenario, is that he just takes it.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be over soon. Like, hopefully he's philosophical, and it's like, this is just 90 minutes
and then
out of my life.
after the show, he's like, the middle guy was better.
Exactly.
That's worse. The middle guy, I liked him.
Yeah. But I felt like, I guess I got to I felt like I'm not looking for that challenge anymore. That challenge of winning over strangers. It was, I want to be with people who trust me enough that I can really stretch as much as I possibly can, and that became the challenge for me.
It's supportive.
Yes, was like I want to be able to open my mind, and I spend the first 15 minutes of my set just stream of consciousness, just see what happens, and hitting some fun stuff and being in the moment. And I felt like I want to be in the moment as much as possible, and I can, the problem with being in the moment is if something is going wrong, if there's somebody texting, if there's somebody being too loud or whatever, it's like, now you got to go to that, and you got to address that. Yeah. And it's like hard for me to ignore that stuff when it's like knowing that, okay, if I don't call attention to that, it'll probably stop.
But do you ever, like, I mean, and I guess this is just because of where I come from, but we don't come from different places. I come from, really, wanting to work as a comic.
Yeah.
Despite everything else.
Absolutely.
And it's only now with the advent of technology where you're like, I can work as a comic in someone's living room.
Yeah.
But there's part of me that the thing that we're trying to get away from is that dread of going into that second show on Friday, and knowing that, like, I can't do what I planned.
Yeah.
Because I have to, get these animals to focus. Yeah. I have to herd them into my mind.
Yeah. You don't want to be the headmaster, you know. You don't want to be like scolding people, even in a fun way.
But you're good at it, right? I mean, there's some guys that can't do crowd work at all. I can eviscerate them.
I have gotten to the point where it took me. I was talking with Maria Bamford about this because she was asking me about, like, what do you do with hecklers, And I
deal with them.
Yeah. Well, I got to the point. What I was saying to her was, I got to the point where I realized, because I used to be I started out. Like, the thing was, anybody made any noise, you shut them down, you know? And then I gradually understood, like, well, not everybody is trying to sabotage you.
That's right.
Sometimes people they're caught up in it,
Or they're talking amongst each other, or they're laughing out of context, which is the worst.
Yeah.
Everyone's done laughing, and then you get the weird tables like, and you're like, that's not for the right reason.
I know you're making fun of me. I know you're making fun of me.
Well, I'm fairly diplomatic too. I'll stop if someone's doing something and be like, "Are we doing that?" I mean, literally, you get that tone where it's like, Is there a reason?
Right.
I mean, that like we're trying to do a thing here.
Yeah.
Why don't you get on board?
Exactly. But what I try to do now is to be friendly about it first, and assume that maybe this person is just having a good time, and they're like, that's why they said something, whatever, and so what I try to do is give them a chance to be good natured, like I'm being good natured.
Yeah.
Let it go for a little bit, and if they're not going to be nice, that's when I try to shut it down.
Then we ruin the show.
Yes, exactly. but it's so I can say to everybody, you all saw it. You all saw it. I was a good guy.
As someone's escorted out crying.
Yeah.
I have fewer and fewer problems with people being removed immediately. I mean, I mean, when I see that, it used to be like you do deal with a heckler, and the worst thing that could happen, especially if it was up in the front area, is that in the middle of you dealing with it, that's when the club decides to take action. Yeah. So then all of a sudden, the door guy comes out and talks to him in front of everybody else to the point where you have to stop your show, and you realize, like, yo, I'm a bitch now. What the hell just happened?
Exactly.
Like, I didn't need you to. I was on top of that.
Yeah.
And then after the show, they're like, well, we didn't really know where to step in. Well, not in the middle of when I'm succeeding.
We didn't know where to step in.
Yeah.
I'll tell people now, and I had to do this in Dallas, and it worked great. I'd never done this before, but I had a crowd of people ostensibly there to see me, right? There was nothing else happening that night. It was just me at this place, and so there was 4 people up front, and this one girl did like a funny thing in response to something that I said, and I was like, what's going on? And she explained it, and then I made a joke about it. And then I guess she felt like I was making fun of her, and so then she was checked out, and so she's talking to her friends, and then she's texting, and it's really distracting in the front row. And so I talked to her about it, and then she gave me some attitude back and folded arms and everything, and then she kept on talking, and so I stopped at one point. I said, you know what, you guys clearly aren't enjoying it. So why don't you go? It's early enough that you can do something. You can get your money back. You can go out and have a night. Yeah, no, I tell you what, you go at any point. Just you can leave. I'm not going to make fun of you. I'm not out to humiliate you or anything. But it really is it's distracting for what I'm trying to do. So if you're not having fun, just go. There's no harm done. I'm not going to take it personally. And so a couple minutes after that, they got up and left, and it was fucking great. Yeah. It's that's all it is. That's all you have to do.
Is that funny?
If you don't like it, just leave. That's all you have to do.
But it's so funny when they're actually given this opportunity in front of people where you lay out the terms, so I can just go.
Yeah. Exactly. What are you really going to do?
I'm going. I'm stepping away from the table.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're
just back, never turning their back on me.
Right.
Backing up the aisle.
But I got to know, once they were out of range, did you go, thank God?
Of course I did. Of course I did.
That's done.
I went off on him for 10 minutes.
Of course you did. And then you called her.
A deal's a deal.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I asked the box office for everybody's name and number.
Yeah. We figured out who it was.
That's right.
And then you played the tape of the show for her. So how is that working out? You do this thing. How does it work with you in the shows now? Because it's sort of, people talk about it. It's the Paul Tompkins.
Oh, I know there's been people talking about it.
Yeah, sure. The 300, the PFT 300s.
I started, this came about by accident. I was in Atlanta, and I was recording,
Laughing Skull. Great place.
I was recording for Comedy Central and what was going to be a DVD. And, the crowds it was not selling out. And I was like, I kind of need people to be here.
And that place seats 70.
It's tiny.
Yeah, 70.
It's tiny. It's I really need people to be here. So I'm using our old friends, social networking platforms. I started putting the word out. I really need people to show up. And so in the midst of this very frenetic, hey, 2-for-1s, come on down, you guys. Just I really want people to be there. This guy...
You're flyering on the street.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, just about. Yeah. I was ready to do it if I had to.
Yeah. In that neighborhood, you would have gotten a lot of black gay men.
I would have taken it.
Yeah, there's a club across the street.
Yeah. Was it Bulldogs or something like that?
It's something weird.
Yeah. It's quite a block.
Yeah.
It's quite a block. This guy tweeted me from Toronto, total stranger, said, "Why don't you come do a show in Toronto?" And I was livid. Because there's nothing worse than if you post about a show on one of these things, you're trying to get people out, and then somebody says, just come here and do a show.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? What do you think is going on here?
Yeah,
like,
how do you think this works?
I'm trying to get people to the one place. Yeah. It's not like, oh, you know what? I'm calling it off, guys, because this guy wants me to go to Michigan.
Yeah.
So
load up the cameras.
Yeah, good idea. So I wrote back to him, and I sarcastically said, if you get 300 people, because I figured out that's what I needed to fill the place over the course of the 4 nights that I was there. If you get 300 people to say they will absolutely come to see me do a show in Toronto, then I will book a show in Toronto. And so this guy, I think literally 5 minutes later, started this group on Facebook. I want to see Paul F. Tompkins in Toronto, and he sent me the link, and he said, "Okay, so we're
going, we're doing
getting the ball rolling here." And within a couple weeks, he had 300 people, and he laid it out. And it ended up, this guy was a comic, this guy Bob Kerr, and he laid it out, said, you have to be serious about coming to see a show. Don't join this just because you want to help me out or because it's easy to join a group. Like, you have to be committed to seeing a show if he books a show here. And so he got to 300 people within a couple weeks, and I said, all right, I'm as good as my word. Let's see what happens.
Uniforms made, and now there's the PFT
Army.
That's across the country, around the world.
Yeah, there's an oath you have to take.
People have to wear a fake mustache to come into the show.
That's right. Everybody gets a ring. So that was it. I did the Rivoli up there in Toronto,
and it worked.
And it worked great. It worked great. It was the best. At that point, it was the best night of my career. I never had that much fun on stage.
And now, how many of those of PFT 300 shows have you done?
Oh boy, a few dozen, I think. I did it for about a year. The first one was in 2009. So for all of 2010, that was how I was booking shows. The first return one was this past October at that first one in Toronto.
Now as a return, did it grow?
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's been great.
Were there cities you went to that you're like, there's no way there's 300 Paul F. Tompkins fans there?
Yeah, there's been a couple surprises, like Madison, Wisconsin. You know,
right?
I was really surprised that one sprang up and grew quickly and was a fantastic show, like at this great theater. And there's been a couple places that the attendance, like that one in Dallas, what made it so bad that foursome was talking was that there was not that many people there.
Right.
I think I had around 50 people.
Well, did you bust balls on the guy who said he was going to get 300?
Well, no, because it's like it's they're only in control of it so much, and so I asked afterwards to the group, like, what happened, you guys? You know, people said they were going to come, and some people said, yeah, I had plans, and you know, there's a lot of this scheme that's kind of up in the air because people say, oh yeah, I definitely want to go, but once the date is announced, like, well, I can't go on that.
Yeah,
day,
I was just saying I wanted to go. Yeah,
and then some people were like, the ticket price was too high.
No, but
like,
now
$20, $20, fuck you.
Right? Yeah. I gotta
you know
fly home. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, when you do that, who's in charge of renting the theater? Do you leave that all up to them?
We tried to do it. No. That is my management finds the venue. You know, all the people have to do is start the group and say they're going to buy a ticket. That's it.
Right.
That is it.
Right.
There's no commitment other than a sort of gentleman's agreement that yes, we will come see a show. You know, and it's kind of fucked up because Facebook has changed their settings, so now you can add people to groups. And then it's up to them to subtract themselves from that group.
Right.
So it can be, you can just add, like, you can add 300 people in a day.
Right.
You know, and then, so it's not, I can't gauge the numbers anymore. So I'm trying to figure out now a way to do it off of Facebook that's the same principle, but where I can track it accurately.
I know how you can do that.
How can I do that?
Get your own TV show.
Boy, that would help, wouldn't it? I bet it would.
Yeah. So just, write that down.
Well, one thing is the having started a podcast, like being able to track who's downloading where has been a big help to where I feel like there are certain places based on those downloads I could probably book a show there.
What are you finding? Which cities?
I haven't looked in a while. I mean, definitely New York and L.A. are the biggest ones.
San
Francisco. Yeah. Like a lot of the markets that you would think.
Right.
Right. So that's, and there's a lot of places that now that the groups have been established, I can return there and just use the group as a means of saying, hey, I'm coming back.
Yes, spread the word.
Yeah, and it worked in Toronto, and it's worked, I forget where else I've been back to since I started doing it, but it's been a system that I've been refining as I go along, but it's definitely a working model.
And the podcast is the PF Tomcast.
The Pod F Tompcast.
Pod F Tomcast. And you don't do what I do. You do radio theater, basically.
Yeah.
And that there's a lot of production. There's bits.
Yeah,
and you have
a little bit of conversation. I talk with Jen Kirkman at the end of every episode.
Who doesn't want to talk with Jen Kirkman?
Oh, I love her so much.
Yeah,
I just
great.
got to see her at the Punchline in San Francisco, and I love watching her work. It's I love comics, and Jen is one of those where she always surprises me. And it's always my favorite comics are the comics that you can have that feeling of, I forgot how great this is going to be. Like when she starts talking about something and it's like, I don't know what she's going to do, and this is really exciting.
Yeah,
she always surprises me.
It's interesting as I get older, and I like this doing the podcast and sort of being humbled by life has brought me back to a place where I can enjoy it again, and not judge in the same way I did, based on my own fear.
I feel like I'm very judgmental. I'm a real comedy snob, and it's only gotten more so as it's. I feel like there's a trend in comedy now that's so outside of what I do that I can't.
Well,
enjoy
I just say not for me, or I mean, I've spent most of my life standing in the back of comedy rooms.
Yeah.
So usually I can sort of get where a guy's tone is going.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I don't begrudge them anything.
Yeah.
Unless the audience really likes them and I think they're shit, and then I'm like, sort of like, well, but usually the first place I go, well, they're not gonna like me.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
Yeah, but like I've just, there are guys I like to watch. And women I like to watch, and then there are guys that are just that I'll go out back and talk and I just kind of look at it like that.
Right.
But before we go, you were there the night that I was attacked on stage. You were hosting.
Yes, it was Valentine's Day, right?
Wasn't it? I can't remember, but I just remember that you were the host.
99.
And I think and you were in the back, and I remember I was hoping someone had captured it somehow. But there was no caption. But you went back up on stage and said something to the effect, because I've told the story here before, I believe, and it was at Largo, which that shit doesn't happen.
No.
But you actually went up and said, like, well, it's lucky he was the last act.
Oh, I was in a bad mood the moment I got there.
Oh, you remember?
Before I got there,
you
I remember it. Yeah, I remember it. I was having a bad night, and it was like, it was that
I got a host.
No, it was. I was not happy in my life. I was not happy in my life.
Okay, so see, this is the weird thing about you and me, is that I think we're sort of wired in a similar way, and we take each other personally.
Yeah. Well, back then, I take things so much less personally now than I did then. Back then, I was a raw nerve, and everything was personal. Yeah,
me too.
Everything was a referendum on who I was as a person.
That's right. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I've really thought about it this clearly, but I do think about, I find myself saying, it's like, they're not thinking about you, they're thinking about themselves. When people are like, that guy's fucked, he's like, doesn't like me. He's like, no, he's not even thinking about you. He's fucked in his own world.
Yeah.
But I think
which I was.
Well, yeah, but so was sure. I.
Yeah.
But not everybody had that effect on me.
Yeah.
Did everybody have that effect on you? There's just certain people that you're like, you're going to be you're the one that's got a problem with me.
Yeah.
And then really what it is I have problems and I'm going to displace them.
We were like magnets.
With the wrong poles facing.
Exactly.
The same two souths.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But
I
I look back, when I think about around the time that I met you, when I think about myself at that time, I am mortified, because I think I thought I was telling myself that I was a great guy. Right.
Sure.
And I think about the way I treated certain people, and I'm so embarrassed that it's like, wow, I really was. I was not. I wish I had been the person that I thought.
But I mean, but when in a reassessment, do you find that you were arrogant, or what is the general the thing that you wish you weren't?
I'm sure I was arrogant. I don't think I was as nice a person as I could have been.
Well, I can confirm
I think
that.
I was way.
And I'm not, but I wasn't either.
Right. Yeah. But I was way more judgmental, and I was way less empathic than I am now.
But you say you're still sort of an elitist when it comes to comedy, but that's just a personal taste thing.
Oh, that's just a personal taste thing.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You don't go up to somebody and go,
no, I do not.
with your pinstripe suit. Yeah. I don't think so. So the Pod F Tomcast is monthly?
Yes, and there's like a littler, like there's an hour-long episode every month, and then there's little shorter things that are sprinkled in throughout the month.
Well, it's great talking to you, Paul.
It was great talking to you,
I'm glad we got that